Congratulations, you bought a refrigerator. You paid for the metal. You paid for the compressor. You paid for the tiny light that reveals your cheese at 3 in the morning. This refrigerator is yours. Or at least it was, until the cooling subscription expired. That example is fake for now. Software became a subscription. Music became a subscription. Movies even became 7 subscriptions wearing a trench coat, somehow. Cars, printers, security cameras, exercise equipment, and even features built into products you already purchased have started asking for another payment. Because the perfect customer is no longer someone who buys something, it's someone who never finishes buying it. For most of modern consumer history, buying something ended the transaction. You bought a toaster. The company received money once. You took the toaster home and used it until it broke, caught fire, or became emotionally important to your family. From your perspective, this was excellent. Every piece of toast after the purchase felt free. From the company's perspective, you had stopped generating revenue. The manufacturer could sell replacement parts. It could persuade you to upgrade. It could make a toaster that looked slightly more futuristic and hoped you developed strong opinions about brushed aluminum. But fundamentally, it had to keep finding new customers or wait for your toaster to die. Subscriptions change that relationship. A subscription, a licensed download, and a software locked feature are not identical business models. What connects them is that paying no longer transfers complete control to the buyer. The seller keeps a hand on the product after the money changes hands. The sale is no longer an event. It becomes a connection, automatic, continuous, and conveniently attached to a card number you will replace only after a major security incident. Subscriptions have existed for centuries. Newspapers, rent, insurance, utilities, and memberships all used recurring payments long before anyone put Wi-Fi in a toothbrush. What changed was technology. The internet made it cheap to deliver services continuously, monitor usage, update products remotely, and bill millions of people without mailing a person named Gerald to every house with a clipboard. Almost anything connected to software can now become a service, and almost any service could become a monthly charge. Businesses love subscriptions for one overwhelmingly boring reason: predictability. Imagine selling software for $300. Revenue arrives today. Next month begins at 0, and the company must convince someone to buy again. Now, charge $20 a month. The first year produces less money, but if the customer stays for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, the same person keeps generating revenue without making a fresh purchasing decision each month. To a business, that stream is easier to forecast. It helps plan hiring, investment, and inventory. It can make revenue less vulnerable to one terrible launch or a month where every customer collectively decides they already own enough things. Investors watch numbers like annual recurring revenue, customer lifetime value, and churn, the percentage of subscribers who leave. The customer stops being a completed sale and becomes a stream of future payments with a probability attached. Adobe is a useful example of how powerful this model became. Software that was once commonly sold through expensive permanent licenses shifted towards Creative Cloud subscriptions. By fiscal 2025, Adobe reported nearly $22.8 billion in subscription revenue across its digital media and digital experience customer groups. That does not prove subscriptions are evil, but it proves accountants have discovered eternity. Subscriptions also change how a price feels. $240 sounds like a purchase. $19.99 per month sounds like something future you has agreed to handle. Breaking a large total into smaller payments lowers the immediate barrier. That can make an expensive service accessible and make the total cost easier to ignore. Automatic renewal changes the default too. With a normal purchase, the company must convince you to act. With a subscription, the company keeps getting paid unless you act. Forget for 3 months, and forgetting becomes revenue. Make cancellation confusing, and frustration becomes revenue. This is called a negative option. Your silence or inaction allows the billing to continue. The Federal Trade Commission has spent years pursuing companies over recurring charges, unclear terms, and cancellation processes apparently designed by an escape room enthusiast. Then there are switching costs. Your files live in one software ecosystem. Your playlists live on one music service. Your photos, notes, home devices, and family accounts all become organized around a particular platform. Leaving may be technically possible. It is also a weekend project involving export menus, incompatible formats, and at least one password nobody remembers creating. Once the customer is settled in, the company does not merely sell access, it controls the exit. Before we declare all recurring payments an economic fungus, subscriptions have a strong defense. Many services have real ongoing costs. Cloud storage requires servers. Streaming services license and deliver changing catalogs. Security software needs updates. A connected car service may use cellular data, maps, and employees whose job is preventing your dashboard from becoming haunted. Paying continuously can make sense when value is delivered continuously. Subscriptions can also offer enormous access for a relatively low upfront price. Buying every album you listen to might cost thousands of dollars. A music subscription makes a vast catalog available immediately. In 2025, paid music subscriptions generated more than half of US recorded music revenue. Consumers clearly find value in access, even while vinyl continues its improbable return from the dead. Renting can be sensible too. If you need a carpet cleaner once a year, ownership mostly gives you the privilege of storing a damp machine for 11 months. Access shifts maintenance, obsolescence, and sometimes risk back to the provider. It gives customers flexibility and gives smaller buyers access to tools they could not afford outright. The problem is not that subscriptions exist. The problem begins when a company stops providing an ongoing service and starts charging an ongoing rent for permission to use something that is already sitting in your house. BMW discovered this boundary through heated seats. In several markets, the company offered customers the option to activate seat heating hardware through a subscription after buying the vehicle. The hardware was already inside the car. The payment unlocked permission to use it. Customers responded with a carefully researched market signal called "Absolutely Not," and BMW abandoned the heated seat subscription in 2023 after acknowledging that acceptance was low. However, it continued exploring subscriptions for its software and connected services, where the ongoing value argument is stronger. And that distinction does matter. A subscription for live traffic data has ongoing delivery costs. A subscription that sends electricity through a heating element already installed in your seat feels different, even if both can technically be controlled by software. Printers found another version. HP's Instant Ink program charges based on a printing plan and automatically supplies ink. That can be convenient for people who print consistently. But HP also states that Instant Ink cartridges stop working after the billing cycle in which a customer cancels. To keep printing, the customer must install ordinary replacement cartridges. The plastic is in your printer. The ink is in the plastic. The permission lives somewhere else. This is the deepest shift in the subscription economy. Products can now contain capabilities that are physically present but economically absent. A server, account, or software key decides whether the object you purchased continues doing what it can already do. Your ownership ends exactly where the company's permission begins. Economically, ownership is not just having an object nearby. It is a bundle of rights. If you own a book, you can read it, lend it, resell it, write terrible notes in the margins, or keep it for 40 years after the publisher goes bankrupt. A subscription usually gives you one narrower right: access, under current terms while payments continue. You may not be able to resell that access. You cannot keep it after cancellation. You may lose it if the catalog changes, the company closes, or a licensing agreement expires. In 2009, Amazon demonstrated just how unusual this could become when it remotely deleted unauthorized digital editions of George Orwell's 1984 and Animal Farm from customers' Kindles. That's ironic, to say the least. I mean, look at that. You really can't make this stuff up, people. The third-party seller lacked the necessary rights. Customers were refunded, and Amazon apologized. The rights problem explained why the books were removed, but it did not make the mechanism less unsettling. A company had reached into devices people owned and removed books they believed they had purchased. The bookshelf was inside somebody else's server. Now, of course, this does not mean buying everything builds wealth. Your toaster is unlikely to fund your retirement unless it becomes historically important. But ownership can end the payment and preserve future use. It can create resale value. It gives the buyer more control over repair, modification, and timing. Subscriptions reverse that control. The provider can change the price, alter the bundle, remove features, add advertisements, or discontinue the product entirely. The customer can leave, assuming their files export cleanly and they survive the cancellation maze. The purchase used to transfer control. The subscription preserves the relationship, and the company remains the senior partner. Streaming shows how this cycle develops. At first, one service offered a large catalog for one low price. It was simpler and cheaper than cable. Then, every company noticed the recurring revenue. Catalogs fragmented, exclusive shows moved beyond separate paywalls, advertising and bundles returned. The cable package was defeated, chopped into pieces, and reassembled by people who insist that this one has an app. Competition can improve services, but the full experience now requires an expanding stack of small monthly payments, a second utility bill made entirely of documentaries you plan to watch later. And unlike a shelf of DVDs, the stack leaves nothing behind when you stop paying. This is how the economy slowly turns ownership into access, access into dependency, and dependency into predictable revenue. No secret meeting is required. Every company can arrive at the same idea independently because the incentives all point in the same direction. So, how do you tell a useful subscription from rent attached to something you should own? Ask what continues after the sale. Are there servers, new content, maintenance, insurance, live data, or regular improvements? A recurring payment may reflect recurring value. Is the company charging to unlock hardware already purchased, preserve basic function, or prevent access from disappearing? That looks more like a toll booth. Then ask whether ownership remains a real option. Can you pay once? Can you export your data? Can you switch providers without rebuilding your digital life? Does the product retain basic functionality if the service ends? Can you cancel as easily as you subscribed? Competition matters. So do interoperability, repair rights, transparent renewal terms, data portability, and rules against trapping customers in payments they did not knowingly choose. The goal does not need to be eliminating subscriptions. Access is genuinely useful in some cases. The goal is preserving a meaningful choice between renting convenience and owning the product. Because when ownership disappears completely, the seller never has to win you again. It only has to make leaving slightly worse than staying. Companies do not oppose ownership because they gathered in a volcano and declared war on your DVD shelf. They prefer recurring revenue because it's predictable, durable, and often more valuable than a one-time sale. Software made that model possible for products that could never have supported it before. Sometimes that gives us better services, lower upfront costs, and access to more than we could ever buy individually. But sometimes it means that thing in your house still belongs to you, but some of its functionalities still belong to somebody else. You own the printer. Printing is extra. You own the car. Warming is available as an upgrade. You own the refrigerator. We're sorry, but cold has been discontinued. Thanks for watching. This ending will automatically renew next month.